Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. On behalf of His Majesty the Sultan, His Highness Sayyid As'ad bin Tariq Al Saeed receives Ambassador of Jordan accredited to the Sultanate. Shura Council approves law of protecting competition and preventing monopoly and forwarded it to the State Council. And Sultanate's commodity exports by end of February is worth more than 3 billion Omani riyals. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos has sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency President Alexander Lukashenko of Belarus on his country's National Day. His Majesty the Sultan received a cable of thanks from His Excellency President Ilham Haydar Aliyev of Azerbaijan in reply to His Majesty's cable of greetings on his country's National Day. On behalf of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, His Highness Sayyid As'ad bin Tariq Al Saeed received in his office today His Excellency Mu'tab Al-Zaban, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Jordan, accredited to the Sultanate, to bid him farewell at the end of his mission as his country's ambassador to the Sultanate. The ambassador expressed his thanks to His Majesty the Sultan for the support he received from His Majesty, the government and the Omani people, which facilitated carrying out his duties. He wished His Majesty good health, happiness and long life, and the Sultanate further progress and prosperity under His Majesty's wise leadership. His Highness expressed his utmost thanks to the ambassador for the efforts he exerted to serve the good relations between the Sultanate and Jordan, wishing him success in his future mission and the Jordanian people every progress and prosperity. Presided over by His Excellency Khalid bin Hilal Al-Ma'wali, Chairman of the Shura Council, the Council in its 24th Ordinary Session of the year touched upon the draft law of protecting competition and preventing monopoly to be forwarded to the State Council. More details in the following report by Saif bin Khalfan Al-Kindi.
The session of Shura Council witnessed an intensive debate before approving the overall draft of the law of protecting competition and preventing monopoly. The new law is expected to increase transparency in the market and enhance trade activities as well as strengthening basis of free market. The law includes 29 articles that have been widely studied by the Economy and Financial Committee and the Legislative Committee in the Shura Council. Some amendments have been conducted to some articles, particularly those related to penalties and fines against law violators. The new law specified the article of fine that might reach between 50,000 and 100,000 Omani riyals, as well as sentence the violator to prison for 3 years. Furthermore, based on Article 29 suggested by the Shura Council, that the implementation of the new law is due after 3 months of issuance in order to provide companies with sufficient time to prepare themselves for its context. Saif Al-Kindi for A30 News, Muscat.
Statistics on foreign trade of the Sultanate, recently issued by National Statistics and Information Center, pointed out to the rise of non-oil exports of the Sultanate, reaching 695 million Omani riyals, and decline in the value of commodity exports within all types by the end of the last February. The increase was attributed to increase in the value of metal and chemical products in the Sultanate. The decline in commodity exports by 10.5% to reach 3.39 billion riyals came as a result of a decrease in oil and gas exports by 9% and re-export commodities by 40%. Meanwhile, the value of commodity imports through sea, land, and air customs outlets decreased by 11%, recording around 1.8 billion riyals. The total registered commodity imports declined in terms of quantity by 29%. Still to come in our news bulletin. France has had its share of famous solo skippers, but now 18-year-old Hinyard is seeking to stake out a new spot for himself. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. A Danish ship carrying some of Syria's most dangerous chemical agents began transferring them today into an American cargo vessel equipped with special gear to neutralize them at sea. The PR site handover in southern Italy came after a series of delays in the internationally backed plan to destroy the Damascus government's stock of toxic arms. Police and officials from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, said that Denmark's Ark Future, which had brought the agents from Syria, started offloading the first containers in the port of Toro. They were taken to the converted U.S. container ship Cape Ray, which will sail them into the middle of the Mediterranean over the next few days and start transferring them into a much less poisonous soup of chemicals ready for disposal back on land. Experts have said the process could take between 60 to 90 days, depending on the weather. Last month, Syria handed over the remaining 8% of 1,300 tons it declared to the OPCW, which is monitoring the process. 8 people were killed and 6 others were injured in different incidents in the city of Baqouba to the north of the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. Iraqi security sources said unknown armed men fired at a vehicle with 3 people on board while it was proceeding to Baqouba and resulted in 3 casualties. In another incident, 3 elements from the Iraqi army were killed in a blast targeted their patrol in the area of Muqtadiya to the northeast of Baqouba. A soldier was killed and few others were injured in a blast when their patrol passed on the road leading to the village of Sifr north of Baqouba. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry urged Russia to stop support to armed men loyal to Moscow in eastern Ukraine. Meanwhile, a soldier from the Ukrainian border elements and 4 others were injured when mortar shell fired by Russian loyalists on a border center in the area of Donetsk. Ukrainian authorities said that around 20 shells fell in another border center and resulted in killing of 1 person that was followed by the fire exchange between border security elements and led to 4 injuries, 3 of them in critical condition. During the first quarter of this year, Basqa Securities Market's General Index recorded an increase by more than 150 points. The market value rose by 18% to reach 14.9 billion Omani riyals. The average of daily trading value amounted to 10.2 million riyals. In terms of sectoral performance, shares of banking sector were the best among all sectors, achieving positive growth. Power companies were also among the best in terms of performance, while industrial sector's companies achieved modest performance during that period of the year. Ibri municipality of the Governorate of Dhahira destroyed 2.5 tons of spoiled cheese and butter, which were damaged due to storing them in unsuitable temperature. The products were on their way to the market, but hygiene inspectors working in food monitoring and veterinary stopped them. More than 2,700 dairy products have been withdrawn and destroyed from Lulu hypermarket in Ibri. The inspection teams in the Ministry of Regional Municipalities and Water Resource conducted inspection campaigns during the holy month of Ramadan. An 18-year-old from Brittany is looking to make news as the youngest skipper ever to enter the solo race from France to the Caribbean. More details in the following report.
The winds and waves off the coast of Brittany. For Paul Inyard, this is both home and training grounds. The 18-year-old spends more time on the water than studying for his baccalaureate high school exam. But this year, his main goal is not graduation, but victory in one of the world's most challenging solo yacht races.
The Route du Rhum is only every 4 years. The baccalaureate is every year. I can take the exam another day.
Inyard will be 19 years old and 3 months on November 2nd when the starting gun goes off for the Route du Rhum, making him the youngest skipper ever to attempt the race that starts here in Saint-Malo and ends in Guadeloupe, a French territory in the Caribbean. With 2 Atlantic crossings under his belt and training with experienced skipper and countryman Thibaut Hector, he's giving himself the best possible chance for the race.
Paul's very mature. You don't really feel the difference in age. I'm very, very confident and have high hopes for him. With his energy and youth, I know he'll go far, and is going to have a great Route du Rhum race.
But Inyard needs more than the wind at his back. He needs 200,000 euros to fund the project, including the rental of his 2-sailed sloop. Through a website and media appearances, he's drumming up corporate sponsorship, crowdfunding, and volunteers. It may be a single-handed race on the water, but it's a collective effort to get there, and a full-time job for Ignard.
My days are filled with strength training, media events, on-the-water training, running my company, looking for sponsors. I wouldn't say I have the normal life of an 18-year-old.
France has had its share of famous solo skippers, but Ignard is seeking to stake out a new spot for himself. He has more than 6,000 kilometers of open ocean water ahead of him.
Here are the Ramadan times for tomorrow. Fajr prayers will be at 3:57 a.m. and Maghrib prayers will be at 7:03 p.m. Now for the general weather forecast. Partly cloudy to cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas of the Governorate of Dhofar and nearby mountains, with chances of intermittent drizzle. Rest of the Sultanate will have clear to partly cloudy skies with chances of scattered rain over parts of the Hajar Mountains during the evening. Winds will be southwesterly moderate to active along the coast of the Arabian Sea, while it will be southeasterly light to moderate among the rest of the Sultanate. Seas along the coastal area of Arabian Sea will be rough with a maximum wave height of 4 meters, and along the rest of the Sultanate's coast it will be slight to moderate with a maximum wave height of 2 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. On behalf of His Majesty the Sultan, His Highness Sayyid Asad bin Tariq Al Said receives Ambassador of Jordan accredited to the Sultanate. Shura Council approves law protecting competition and preventing monopoly and forwarded it to the State Council. And Sultanate's commodity export by end of February is worth more than 3 billion Omani riyals. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.